let's get started. I'd like to make sure you have all of your components for your VX5 before we start trying to assemble the piece. You're going to need 5 pieces of the frame, 5 pieces of the base. You're going to need a sandbag. Make sure you have all of your hardware in this little hardware kit. You're going to need an instruction manual, and it also has an assembly manual in there as well. You're going to need a net with the bungee cord in it. Then you're going to need your ring and cable system as well. And then when we begin in using the piece, you'll get to use your V card for softball and your V card for baseball. Now, let's get started with the assembly. I'd like to begin assembling the larger arch first. Now, we have the 5 pieces of the arch, and we also have the net and the bungee. Now, I want to take the net and the bungee and put them on first. I want to pull that bungee up in a form similar to that. And then I want to put my very first bar that has the green and the 2 pinks. I want to slide it through that net. Like so. And then I want to take the cardboard out. It's simply used as a guide. So now I want to match my colors. I want to match green to green, orange to orange, and yellow to yellow. So I'll take my coupler pack that has 10 nuts and bolts in it. Get me a couple of those. I'll make sure my holes line up. Put the lock nuts on the interior of the ring, on the interior of that ring. Take my other green, put it on the green on this side. My 2 nuts on there. And then I just find the orange and put the orange and the orange on the other 2 slots. Now, I haven't tightened anything up just yet. I'll do that just in a moment. My other 2 oranges line up. Then I'll take my final 2 nuts and bolts, and I'm going to pull the arch together. It's laid out here. It's a really large circular piece. It doesn't look like it's going to come together, but when I force it together, it'll lock it in place. I pull down until it all lines up. Then I'll put my final 2 nuts and bolts in there, and I'll tighten everything up good and tight at this time. So there it is. It's temporarily bolted together. I'll go ahead and tighten all of those up, and then we'll pull the net around and complete this larger arch just in a second. Now that the frame is completely bolted together, I began to take and deploy the net all the way around the outer perimeter of the frame. And I'm almost finished. All I want to do is just completely pull the net all the way around the arch. And I want to make sure that this thicker rope stays on the outer edge and the bungee cord stays on the inner circle. And I want my two joints of this net to meet in the center of the bottom bar. When I get it to the center of that bottom bar, I want to take my two tag lines and I want to tie those together. And I want to make sure that I pull these nets close enough together to where they can actually be poly tied or bungee or zip tied together to make sure that it stays in place. Now, if you want a long life out of this net, you'll want to make sure that this rope stays on that outer edge, so I need you to tie it with those poly ties about every 16 inches or so. Now it's ready to be attached to the base. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to assemble the base, and then we'll attach it to this larger ring, and then we'll put our cable and ring system in this VX5 and get ready to do some V-Flex training. Now to attach the base to the frame, I simply want to make sure that the tubing on this frame is facing the ground. There are two small tubes that accept the cables of the cable and the ring system. So those two tubes need to be touching the ground when I lay this ring down. I'll pick it up. I'll make sure that I remove this little cord and move it out of the way so that I can put the base and the frame together pretty easily. So what I've done, I went ahead and put a 5/16 bolt through this one hole. I'll put a 5/16 bolt through this hole. And then on this base, there are two pink stickers. And I'm going to put those pink stickers and align those holes like so. And the cross pieces, I want them toward the sky. So I'm going to put my washer on here. Put me a lock nut right there. I'll do the same thing on the other side. And they're loosely bolted together as well, but now I'm going to tighten those up just a little bit. Okay, that allows me to move this thing, maneuver it some to where I can get it really straight when I set it up. So I'm going to do that. They look really good and straight, so it's time to tighten those up, and the entire frame will be ready to accept the cable and the ring system. We're almost finished. All we like now is putting the cable system and the ring system onto the frame, and we'll be ready to do some V-Flex training. Now, in order to do that, I need to put the tag line onto one of the cross pieces on the bottom. So what I did, I took one of the bolts out so I can actually slide this on one of the crossbars, the one closest to the arch. Then I'm going to replace the bolt and tighten the frame of the base back together. And then I'm going to attach the cables to the arch. Black cinch mark on each cable. I put it through the hole closest to the center, going upward, and then I go downward through the other hole. The excess goes in the tube on the back. Makes the piece look really professional when you do that. The excess again goes in the tube on the back. And we're ready to use our piece. Now the last thing I'll probably do is make sure I put my sandbag right in the very center of the cross pieces, and we're ready to use our V-Flex VX5. It's a good looking piece. Just make sure, a couple of reminders. Make sure you put your poly ties every 16 inches or so along the outside edge to make this net last a long time. And make sure all of your bolts are tightened really tight and that the legs are straight before you actually tighten everything down for the final time. And thanks again for purchasing the VX5 and being part of the V-Flex family. We do appreciate you.